The sun hung low over the quiet town, painting the rooftops in shades of gold and crimson. Dust swirled lazily along the empty streets, carrying the faint scent of smoke. In the garage, he worked silently. Click, snap. The rifle rested on the worn bench, each movement precise, almost ritualistic. His fingers traced the metal with the familiarity of years spent in far-off battlefields, where every motion could mean life or death. She hummed in the kitchen, the melody soft and carefree, carrying to the open windows. The smell of fresh bread filled the room, a stark contrast to the tension coiled in the garage. He glanced over his shoulder, offering a small, almost imperceptible smile. "Don't burn the bread," he said, his voice low, steady. Outside, the town seemed oblivious to the shadows gathering beyond its borders. A stranger lingered near the marketplace, eyes scanning the quiet streets with a predator's patience. Nobody noticed him, not yet, but the air was heavy, thick with an unease the town couldn't name. Memories flickered behind his calm eyes, flashbacks of distant wars and missions, the deafening roar of gunfire, the stench of smoke, the sharp sting of betrayal. Bullets, silence, shadows, every detail etched into muscle memory, every lesson learned the hard way. Yet here, in this small house filled with laughter and the scent of bread, he was just a man, or so it seemed. She moved to the doorway, watching him with curiosity. "You've been quiet all morning," she said. There was warmth in her tone, a gentle tease that reminded him of why he had left that life behind. He leaned against the workbench, exhaling slowly. "Just making sure everything's in order," he replied. His eyes lingered on the rifle, the dusty boots tucked neatly by the door, the way the sunlight caught the edge of the blade on the wall. Small details, but details that could matter. The wind shifted. A creak from the old gate. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked sharply, then fell silent. He didn't flinch, but his hand rested lightly on the rifle. "It's probably nothing," he murmured, though his tone carried the weight of experience. She laughed softly, moving closer. "You're still as paranoid as ever," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her laughter was a fragile shield against the creeping tension that had begun to settle over the house. He smiled, a fleeting, almost private smile. "Maybe," he said, "but some things are worth watching for." Outside, the stranger in the marketplace shifted, fingers tightening around the brim of a hat, a shadow against the fading sunlight. Nobody warned the town. Nobody warned them. But he knew. He always knew. And when the time came, every skill he had buried in the past would rise again, precise and lethal. For now, there was only the quiet, the bread in the oven, the hum of a melody, and the faint, almost imperceptible sense that danger was near, creeping closer with every passing second. Dust kicked up along the main road, swirling in the fading light. Hooves clattered against the worn cobblestones, sharp and rhythmic, echoing through the empty town. Shadows stretched long across the walls of buildings, distorted and menacing. Masked figures appeared at the outskirts, their movements calculated, deliberate. They were not here to bargain, not here to negotiate. Only one thing mattered. Fear. From the kitchen window, she saw them first. "Who are they?" she whispered, voice trembling. Her hands gripped the edge of the counter, knuckles white. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved methodically, checking the rifle, loading it with careful precision. Click, snap, every motion exact, each movement rehearsed from years long past. The bandits advanced, their leader raising a hand to signal forward. Short, sharp commands broke the quiet. "Move!" Quickly. Horses whinnied, leather creaking, boots pounding against the street. A dog barked frantically in the distance, then fell silent. Inside the house, she backed away, her heart racing. She tried to keep her voice steady. "Maybe we should run?" He shook his head. "Not yet. Stay calm." Calmness was a weapon he wielded better than any rifle. He glanced toward the door, then toward the window, mapping angles and sight lines with a soldier's instinct. Each second mattered. Outside, the bandits reached the gates, pausing as if sensing something unseen. A scream pierced the air from the far side of town. Another villager caught in the path of these intruders. Panic spread like wildfire. Short, staccato bursts of gunfire rang out from the marketplace, warning shots meant to scatter anyone daring enough to resist. But she stayed frozen, watching, listening. Every shadow could hide a threat. Every noise a harbinger of chaos. The door rattled violently. Glass cracked. Footsteps thundered up the steps. She scrambled to move the children out of sight, pulling them into a hidden corner. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. She obeyed, heart hammering in her chest, each breath shallow and quick. The bandits' voices grew louder, more impatient, mocking. He stepped into view, rifle raised, his posture calm, yet imposing. One bandit caught sight of him through the doorway and froze, realizing too late that this was no ordinary man. He moved with precision, taking out the first threat silently. Click, drop, silence. Another bandit reached for the doorknob. Snap! A shot rang out, controlled, lethal, cutting through the tension like a knife. Amid the chaos, a shadow stirred at the edge of the tree line. A figure crouched silently, observing the unfolding battle. Rugged, muscular, almost indistinguishable from the darkness. The stranger's eyes gleamed with calculated awareness, every muscle ready to spring into action, but for now, just watching. Not all allies announced themselves. Some waited for the right moment, letting the storm reveal who they could trust. The bandits hesitated, confused by the sudden loss of momentum. Panic rippled through their ranks. Horses reared, boots scrambled. The leader cursed, scanning for the unseen enemy that seemed to strike with preternatural precision. Outside, dust swirled, kicked up by frantic movement. Short bursts of shouting, short bursts of gunfire, then silence, as if the town itself held its breath. Inside, she dared glance. Her husband moved like water through a narrow stream, smooth, unstoppable, his eyes sharp, calculating. Each step, each shot, each silent maneuver spoke of a life she never truly knew, a life buried beneath years of calm. She realized, with a shiver, that nobody had warned them. Nobody had warned the bandits what they were about to face. The shadow at the tree-lean shifted. Fingers brushed against a weapon, silent as a whisper. The stranger was ready, but patient. Trust had to be earned in this storm of chaos, earned with timing and precision. Meanwhile, the husband continued, each calculated movement buying precious seconds, holding their world together on a knife's edge. And then the wind changed. A sudden gust carried the scent of smoke and dust into the house, mingling with fear. Outside, the bandits regrouped, their confidence faltering. The man at the door, calm and deadly, stood between her and destruction. And in the darkness beyond, an unknown ally waited. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. The town held its breath. The bandits had no idea what they had stumbled into. They had no idea that their prey was not helpless, that their target was not just a man, but a retired shooter who had mastered the art of survival, precision, and control. Every shadow, every whisper movement, every heartbeat counted. The first blood had been drawn, but the battle had only begun. The first night of chaos gave way to a restless dawn. Dust still clung to the streets, and the distant cries of birds mingled with the faint moan of the wind. He moved through the house with a quiet purpose, checking corners, reinforcing doors, laying out small traps. Tripwire, arrow, silence. Every measure was precise, measured, designed to turn the home into a fortress. She watched from behind the doorway, heart pounding, trying to steady her breath. "Stay close," he whispered. She nodded, gripping a small stick for whatever help it might offer. This was no longer just defense. It was survival. Outside, the bandits scouted, searching for a way in, unaware of the invisible snare tightening around them. Panic glimmered in their eyes, hesitation creeping into their movements. A shadow stirred near the tree-lean. The stranger from before stepped into the clearing, eyes scanning for targets, muscles coiled like springs. Silent and deadly, the figure moved through the chaos with a grace that was almost unnatural. A bandit reached for a weapon and suddenly collapsed, a silent strike ending the threat before it could begin. Inside, she felt a strange mix of fear and awe. The man she had known as gentle and quiet was now a calculated storm. Yet she could not remain passive. Small distractions, subtle movements, She began helping where she could, tipping over a lamp, drawing attention, making noise at just the right moment. He shot glances her way, brief but full acknowledgement. She was part of this fight now, and she was learning fast. Outside, confusion reigned among the bandits. Horses kicked violently, and shouts rang out. Short bursts of gunfire met silence and precision. The world seemed suspended between chaos and control. Dust rose in clouds, catching the morning light, like smoke from a hidden battlefield. Each movement had meaning. Each step could shift the outcome. He paused, breathing hard, reflecting on the years he thought were behind him. War had been a distant memory, a chapter closed. Yet here in his home, in the presence of his family, the past came rushing back, not as fear, but as clarity. Every skill, every instinct, every calculation he had honed over decades mattered now. This wasn't about glory. This was about protecting what he loved. The stranger moved closer, finally revealing a glimpse of identity. A jagged scar across the cheek, eyes sharp and assessing. The presence was both reassuring and enigmatic. Trust was not given freely. It was earned in the heat of battle. And for now, the Allies' actions spoke louder than words. Together, they began to corral the intruders, funneling them into traps, cutting off escape routes, turning the tide with silent precision. The bandits regrouped, voices low, plotting their next move. One of them, bolder than the rest, slipped toward the back of the house, unnoticed. The man's hand tightened on the rifle. "Not this time," he murmured. The shot rang out, echoing in the empty streets, precise, deliberate. A thud followed. Silence returned, only for a heartbeat. She watched him, realization dawning. This was no ordinary man. This was someone who had lived through blood, danger, and the edge of mortality. Someone whose every instinct had been sharpened to perfection. And yet there was vulnerability, too, a tenderness beneath the deadly efficiency. She saw it in the way he glanced at her and the children, in the quiet moments between the bursts of chaos. The bandits, now shaken, faltered. Their confidence crumbled under unseen pressure, under traps they could not anticipate, under a force they had no understanding of. The stranger, moving like a phantom, eliminated threats with efficiency, leaving them fearful, disoriented, and vulnerable. The house trembled under the tension. Dust and debris mingled with morning light, turning the battlefield surreal, almost otherworldly. Every shot, every movement, every decision was a dance with death. But he led with calm, his actions methodical, almost poetic. And then, just as the bandits seemed ready to rally for a final push, the wind carried a warning. From the shadows, another figure moved, a second wave of strategy, unseen, unanticipated. Every plan the intruders had counted on was unraveling. Panic replaced courage. Confidence became hesitation. And amidst it all, he remained the anchor, the calm eye in a storm that threatened to swallow the town whole. Time stretched, each second heavy with potential disaster. Every heartbeat felt amplified. The children huddled, watching, learning fear and courage in equal measure. She moved quietly to aid wherever she could, a silent partner in the deadly game unfolding around them. The stranger's presence remained enigmatic, powerful, a reminder that some help comes where you least expect it. And sometimes the right ally is worth more than any army. As the bandits pulled back, regrouping for a final assault, he allowed himself a brief glance at his wife. Her eyes met his, wide and fearful, but steady. They understood each other without words. They had survived this far, not through luck, but through precision, strategy, and trust. The sun climbed higher, casting long, angled shadows. The battle was far from over, but the first true lesson had been delivered. Nobody underestimated him, and nobody underestimated what they could do together. Every trap laid, every shot fired, every careful movement had carved the first mark of survival. The bandits would return, and when they did, they would find the house transformed, the defenders ready, and a retired shooter who would not hesitate. Silence settled briefly over the battlefield, the kind of silence heavy with anticipation, warning, and the unspoken truth that the storm was not yet over. The bandits returned at dusk, their shadows long and threatening in the fading light. The town seemed to hold its breath. Every creaking signpost, every rustling leaf amplified in the heavy air. Horses snorted, hooves striking cobblestones, boots pounding. They thought they had learned from the morning's chaos, but they had underestimated the man who stood at the doorway, rifle in hand, calm and deadly. Bang! A shot rang out, precise and deliberate. A bandit dropped silently, his horse rearing in panic. Bang! Another. The air was thick with smoke, dust, and the tang of fear. Short, staccato bursts echoed, each one punctuated by silence, a calculated rhythm of destruction. He moved with lethal elegance, every motion measured, every target calculated. From the tree lean, the ally emerged fully, no longer a shadow, but a force to be reckoned with. Arrows whistled through the air, striking with pinpoint accuracy. Bandits faltered, confusion overtaking aggression. The alliance between husband and stranger formed seamlessly, a silent choreography of survival and skill. Inside, she moved as best she could, drawing attention, blocking paths, aiding where she could. Her hands trembled, but her resolve was steady. They were no longer just defending a house. They were defending everything they loved. Every heartbeat carried weight. Every breath a reminder that survival demanded courage. The bandit's leader, wild-eyed and furious, tried to rally his men, but his plan crumbled under relentless precision. Traps set earlier now claimed their toll. Collapsing beams, hidden pitfalls, and obstacles turned to weapons. Panic spread like wildfire. Their confidence evaporated in the face of strategy, skill, and the unyielding will of a man who had mastered the art of survival. He paused briefly, surveying the battlefield, eyes sharp, mind calculating. The sun cast long shadows across the courtyard, catching the glint of rifles and the flash of steel. He thought of the life he had left behind, of missions fought and battles survived, and realized it had all led to this moment. Protecting home, family, and love was now the highest mission of all. Bang! Crash! The final assault reached its peak. The alleyways, the garden, the main doorway, all became arenas of precision combat. Each movement, each shot, each step was executed flawlessly. The bandits fell one by one, their attempt to fight back hopeless against a combination of experience and cunning. And then a moment of silence. The last bandit dropped, eyes wide, disbelief etched across his face. The town, scarred but intact, breathed again. She ran to him, relief washing over her, tears blurring the edges of her vision. "Nobody warned them," she whispered, voice shaking. "Nobody." He held her close, rifle lowered, muscles finally unclenching. "Nobody ever does," he replied, voice low, steady. "But we are ready." The ally watched on the edge of the clearing, nodding once, acknowledgment in a silent, almost ceremonial gesture. Then, without a word, the figure vanished into the shadows, leaving behind the echo of mystery and gratitude. The couple walked through the house, checking damage, repairing what could be fixed. Broken glass, upturned furniture, and the remnants of chaos bore witness to the day's battle. Yet in every corner, there was life, resilience, and the quiet triumph of survival. The children peered out from safe spots, eyes wide, understanding both fear and courage. He looked at the rifle resting against the wall, dust settling around it like a reminder. Some skills never fade, he thought. Some dangers never disappear entirely. But some things, love, family, trust, were worth every risk, every shot, every second of vigilance. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the town in blood red and gold. Silence returned, heavy but peaceful, carrying the promise of nights free from fear, for now. And as the wind whispered through the trees, he knew the world was full of danger. But some people were ready for anything. The camera would pull back slowly, wide over the repaired house, the fading dust and the quiet streets, leaving only the lingering question. Who else might test his family? And who else might find that they were far from ordinary? The answer, for now, remained in the hands of those prepared to act when chaos arrived.